Native American legend speaks of the dead man walking. If you see him in a tornado, you are about to die. The townsfolk of Gerald can now see the arms and legs of a multi-vortex tornado approaching. The dead man has just walked into Gerald.
We view it here as approaching Imperial Acres subdivision. We will see three tales combine into one and become the most devastating force our community has ever experienced. We view it here as approaching Imperial Acres subdivision. We will see three tales combine into one and become the most devastating force our community has ever experienced.
The townsfolk of Gerald can now see the arms and legs of a multi-vortex tornado approaching. The townsfolk of Gerald can now see the arms and legs of a multi-vortex tornado approaching.
I remember thinking, God, please don't take my son, don't take my family, don't let me live if they are gone.
What had happened to Gerald was an F5, and the signs were quite evident. The countryside, the ground was literally shaved. No grass, no trees, everything shaved to the ground. The asphalt was sucked up, literally gone.
The full extent of the damage could be seen from the air. Professor Don Green of Baylor University surveyed the trail of devastation left by the tornado in its wake.
At the touchdown of the Gerald tornado, it ripped up the ground. We had a cotton field at the touchdown point in which the cotton plant was not only pulled out of the ground, the soil itself was removed down to a depth of about 18 inches. Next, it swept across a wheat field. All of those shafts were then plucked out of the ground, flying through the air by the millions, and then impaling these cows that were in the field beyond that. In terms of the exposure to the wind itself, often the cattle lost their hair. They were skinned. Often what you would see is something like meat in a butcher's shop. In some cases, what you saw was mostly skeleton. I think one of the most impressive images that I saw occurred at one of the early houses where it was only at an F2 strength. In this particular case, you were looking at a storm shelter in which a monolithic concrete slab weighing well over a ton, 4 to 5 inches of concrete, was lifted off of the ground. I looked for the top of the storm shelter. I asked the owner where it is. He said he could not find it. I went back a week later and asked again, did you ever find the top to your storm shelter? Apparently it caught into the wind and flew off like a frisbee, never to be found again. From there, I could then see how it was gaining in strength, such that by the time it reached Gerald, it was at its greatest strength, its greatest breadth on the ground, almost a half-mile wide, and at that point, everything was removed from the ground.
Light objects were blown huge distances. A box of checks was later recovered 100 miles away. Other heavier objects, refrigerators, air conditioners, kitchen sinks, were completely destroyed.